Hi guys, so today on the Legion Go we are taking a look at Age of Mythology Retold. The beta technical stress test over on Steam happened this past weekend, so let's just see what kind of performance we get. Obviously this game's coming to Game Pass in September. So we're going to go through a couple of benchmarks. First off, we're going to do 1200p high settings, so you can see its texture and terrain's pretty much high quality. Water, shadow, foliage, reflections. I'm going to set that to low. And then first off, we're going to try TAA at 1200p, see what kind of performance we get. So obviously I tried this out on the Legion Go instead of the ROG Li. Bigger screen real estate, it's more conducive to play in real-time strategy games. So I'd probably ideally get this at 1200p. Obviously you'll get to see more on screen as opposed to 800p, and I think 1600p you're not going to really get the sweet spot as far as performance is concerned. So you can see during this initial benchmark, 1200p TAA, we're hovering around the 30 frames per second mark quite admirably. And nothing too out of the ordinary as far as frame pacing is concerned. Okay, so you can see the benchmark score there was 1356 or 1356, like the Americans would say. So 30 frames per second at 1200p, not a bad result. Okay, so now let's try some FSR2, setting it to balanced, 1200p as well. See what kind of performance we get on the benchmark. You can see there was a couple of hitches there at the start on the frame time graph, but as soon as the benchmark hits its stride, you can see it's pretty smooth experience. So Age of Mythology Retold. This is just a remastered version of the 2002 game that was originally developed by Ensemble Studios. So this one's developed by World's Edge and Forgotten Empires, published by Xbox Game Studios. September 4th, it'll be releasing on Windows and on Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass as well. So it's built using Age of Empire 3 Definitive Edition's Bang engine, its own version of that. Okay, so as you could see, 1200p FSR2 balanced. We got a score slightly better than TAA of 1422, and we were hovering around the 30 frames per second mark as well. Okay, let me just adjust the resolution for the screen here. I just want to drop it down to 800p. See how much better we get at a lower resolution. But then again, I wouldn't really be playing at 800p, and it's just to see the benchmark stats. So one thing I noticed during the benchmark, it allowed me to have the performance stats top left hand corner, Riva Tuner, and the stats there in the left hand side. But you'll see later on for the gameplay, it kicked me out back to the Windows screen, so I used the built-in Legion Go stats a bit later in the video. Okay, so now you can see at 800p TAA, you can see the frames per second hovering currently around 32 frames per second. Frame time graph pretty steady. But you can now see we are getting into the 35 frames per second region, going up to 36, 37, 38 now. So this is as good as we're going to get, I think, from this game. This is the lowest resolution. As you can see, we're at 39 frames per second. You can see it's quite indicative of a hectic match. A lot of particle effects on screen in the thick of the action. So it's impressive that the performance holds up this well. Okay, so let's mix it up now to still keeping the same resolution, 800p, switching it to FSR2 balanced. Let's just see what kind of performance we get. You can even see hellfire is being rained down on these poor we would say the residents, but it's not really the residents. These are soldiers, army. So you can see pretty solid experience, staying above 30 frames per second. You can see at the end of the benchmark here we're at 39, 40 frames per second. So obviously on conserved battery, I've got a 25 watt TDP. You can just lock it to 30 frames per second and maybe get away with 20 TDP, 20, 21. You can see it's currently pulling 22, 23. Okay, so that was FSR2 balanced at 800p. Okay, so now we're going to jump into 1600p, a lot more, let's say, ambitious. Okay, so let's originally start off with TAA. And you can see it's obviously under heavy load, and the frame is not impressive at all, hovering around 19 to 21 frames per second. So I wouldn't recommend in its current state. Obviously the game is still in development. There's a beta version. You can see the beta version slapped on the top left hand of the screen there. So it is a work in progress. I'm sure by the time of the release in September we're going to get game ready drivers, and the developers would have had further time to optimize the game. So looking forward to that. Keen to see what kind of performance I get on the Xbox Series S. Okay, so TAA 1600p benchmark is done. You can see we've got a score of 1214, and we were hovering around 19 to 21 frames per second. I don't know why after every benchmark it defaulted the texture quality from high down to low, so every time I'm just setting it to high before I apply the settings and jump back into the benchmark. Okay, so now we're going to be on 1600p, FSR2 balanced. So you can see now we get a lot more respectable numbers as far as frame time and frames per second is concerned. Even in the thick of the action, you can see we're still hovering around 25, 30 frames per second. I'm quite a big fan of this benchmark. It's obviously not holding any punches. There's quite a lot of action, quite a lot of particle effects on screen, a lot of destruction. Okay, so 1600p, FSR2, let's see what performance we got. 1310, and you could see we were hovering around the 25 frames per second to 30 frames per second mark. Okay, so now let's just go take a look at what other menu options they've got available to us here in the beta. So we've got the tech tree here. So obviously the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Norse, the Atlanteans, all the factions that are available to us when the game launches. Odin, Loki, Kronos, Gaia. So it's actually nice they got all these extras, historical context for all these characters that you'll be playing with. Okay, so we're not going to have around here too long, guys. I'm going to jump into gameplay soon. But the one caveat is it's gameplay footage that was unceremoniously cut very short. The benchmark portion allowed Riva Tuner and the statistics to show on screen, as you would see on the top left during the benchmarks previously. But during gameplay, when you're actually in a multiplayer match for the Steam beta technical stress test, unfortunately it didn't like the MSI afterburner and the Riva Tuner statistics on screen. But I mean, I'm just going to jump into the match nonetheless here, and then you can see what kind of performance we got at the start of that gameplay footage. Here you can see me trying my utmost best. The MSI afterburner and Riva Tuner, trying to get it up and running. Unfortunately, for the rest of the weekend, I wasn't around my handhelds, so I didn't really have time to attempt additional gameplay on the limited slots that they gave us during the Steam technical stress test. But I feel confident based on the benchmark performance that we're going to get quite a good experience when the game launches. Looks like the developers are taking time and fine-tuning it, and we're going to get a polished experience on launch day. Okay, so the map we're going to jump into is Oasis, and let me just bring up the Legion Goes default built-in to Legion space, the performance monitor, seeing that my combination of MSI Afterburner and Riva Tuner was not working. It would crash the game to the desktop every single time. Okay, so you can see start of the game, we're above 60 frames per second, quite respectable, because obviously there's few units on screen, not a lot of geometry, I haven't built much as far as buildings is concerned. So obviously as the screen populates, you're going to see that frames per second. As there's more complex geometry, it's going to obviously drop that frames. Okay, thanks for joining, guys. Appreciate the support the channel's been getting.